Hello, hope this finds you well today. I got a request from more than one of my subscribers to talk about the construction of this house. So I decided to do that today. Lynn and I bought this property, this house, on lakefront property on Lake Chapala in Ajijic, Jalisco, Mexico in 2004. And we very quickly figured out that the brother of the property we bought the house from owned the property next door with this little casita on it. So we very quickly made an offer on the casita, and we thought we'd close on the casita in about 6 months. It took 6 years. And so this is the story, not of those 6 years, but of the construction that we started after those 6 years. And what was going on during those 6 years, it would take 6 years to tell that story. But the quick version is that we made an offer on the property, and it had never been probated since a guy inherited it from his father. So when Grandpa died, the brother on this side for the main house probated the property, and we had no trouble getting clear title to it when we bought it. The other one was never probated, and that other brother became mentally incapacitated. Well, anyway, I said I was going to keep this story short. After 4 years, the mentally incapacitated brother who had never probated the property died, and that negated the power of attorney that his wife had. We were almost ready to close after 4 years of going through the probate process, throwing us into a double probate. Here's the end of the long story. After 6 years, we had 23 Mexican relatives had signed off on the property to give us clear title. So during those 6 years, I can't build. I'm not going to, we've got a contract to purchase the property, and I'm not going to build and improve the property because I'm afraid the price will go up or the contract will go away and I will have, done myself dirty or else lost the property. Anyway, I'm sitting in front of my computer designing the house, and it gets bigger and taller and more complicated. And so this is the story of what we did when we finally got clear title to the second property and started building. Please enjoy my stories or whatever else might be on my mind today. The first thing we did was tear the old kitchen and laundry room off of that small casita. It used to be really close to the pool anyway. My buddy Jesus and I started the project, just the two of us. We did all of this part. That's what it looks like when it's new. And there was a lot of escombro, they call it, construction debris, a couple of dump truck loads actually. But we finally got that wall finished, and when we did, started on another project and decided that we're going to need some help. So Jesus's boys came along. That's Jaime and Juan Carlos and Fabian. And this isn't a son, but he's my welder, Danny. So we started working on the wall. That didn't take long, that part of the wall, and we started working on the back of the wall also. That was going to be the bathroom. But I knew I needed to go higher. The next step was to put in this beam and then build a walkway from the main house balcony over to the roof of the casita. This was the first physical connection above ground between the two houses. And I'm starting to see this, and everybody else is still seeing this. The next thing was to start building the foundation for the front, the other end of the living room, where the tower at the front window and the front door are going to be. I was told by several people that you can't build a tower like this, that I couldn't have 18-foot tall windows, and there weren't enough bricks in there to support the whole thing. They were very discouraging, but I decided I was going to do it anyway, and here's what I did. I had the windows built first, and then I welded them all together with rebar, and at each corner of the hexagon, well, 5 corners, because one of them's in the house and isn't there, I had the Aramex put in there and poured concrete, so at each corner there's a concrete reinforced pillar, and all of the steel of the windows is welded together, and that's welded to the Aramex. So bottom line is, when the earthquake comes and all the bricks fall down, my windows are still going to be standing there, along with the roof, which isn't there in this picture yet. Well, time out for Danny the welder to get married to the beautiful Dora. And my bride of some time ago is beautiful also. And I couldn't wait to get out of these clothes and back into the ones that I worked 27 years to be able to wear every day. Oop! Oh, hey, there's no snorting on YouTube. Sorry. Next was digging the holes that would form the base for supporting the main roof. That's 1-inch rebar down there, all welded together along with the post, which is Patari, they call it. It's 6 inches square, and it's made out of a little better than 1/4-inch steel. Those holes are 1 meter square and 1.5 meters deep, so they're filled with concrete and big rocks. So I built that in order that it could support a second story up on top of the roof of the main living room, if I ever wanted to build up there. Anyway, it's a lot of concrete and a lot of steel. Here you can see those posts going up on each end of the living room. They will support the main beam that supports the roof on this side. After the posts were set, we started building the front wall and the front door, and it all started to look like it was going to be the front of my house. Raising this main beam up to the top of those posts turned out to be quite the thing. It's 12 inches tall, over 5 meters long, and weighs about the same as a Volkswagen Bug, and it turns out that raising it to the top of those posts turned out to be a one-man job. He had this tower thing that was tied off to my cupola, tied off to a palm tree, 2 guys holding another rope the other direction, and a guy holding a rope the other direction. He stood on top of the beam and raised himself up with a chain hoist, stuck it on top of those posts, walked across the beam, and welded it. I was amazed. That beam held the 5.5-inch I-beams that go from that beam over to the wall we built first, and that's the supporting structure for the Bovida ceiling that we built next. Once we had a ceiling, or a roof, to stand on there and in the tower, then we built this wall all around the perimeter so that when you're standing up there on the roof it feels comfortable, and someday we'll make that into what here in Mexico is called a mirador, a place to go and have a view. I was getting tired of sharing my parking place with sand and gravel. Fortunately, I kept my sanity by going and playing volleyball 3 days a week at that time. Lynn was starting to wonder if she was ever going to not be living in a construction zone. Danny welded all of the windows and doors for the whole project right here on the property. This one's out in the yard being primered. The location of this fireplace is an old fountain, and the fountain was 3 foot deep. Every day when we got done, we had a little rebar left over, some pipe or some concrete. We poured it in that old fountain, and now the base of that fireplace is about 6 foot of concrete and steel. I think you could park a Sherman tank on that base. Finally, we're laying tile, and we eventually decided to bite the bullet and do all the old floors of both houses, the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, the old living room, the sunroom, the TV room, the new bathroom. Anyway, it turned out to be one of our biggest expenses, and one of the things I'm the most glad I did. Juan Carlos cutting tile outside in the sunshine. This is the last Christmas before that whole wall behind the Christmas tree there comes down to open up the old living room to the new living room. This is that same wall on the outside, and if you see that hole down at the bottom by the floor, they opened that up so that they get the same level of tile from the new living room to the old living room before we tore down the wall, because they were going to tile it before we did that. You see Danny in the background there welding the new door to the vertical steel post. Before we tore down that old wall, it's a supporting wall, so we had to put a new beam on the inside and weld it to the ceiling, and then put the posts in, and then we did them, so it's kind of in the reverse. But anyway, one of the problems we ran into was a drain pipe right down through the opening that we didn't know was there, so we had to move that. This is what that's going to look like when we get done. Meanwhile, outside, this space is going to become 2/3 bathroom and 1/3 outside bodega for the lawnmower. Fabian digs through 4 feet of adobe. It's right where 4 adobe walls meet, and boy, was that a tough job. He did a great job, but I got a new appreciation for adobe construction. This is the new bathroom that used to be an outside space where I kept my garbage cans. And this is the bodega. The shower on the other side of that wall is a little smaller than I wanted it to be because the lawnmower had to fit in the bodega. Another adobe problem that presented itself was this wall. This wall is adobe laid sideways, so it's 15 inches there. It has bricks on the outside, bricks on the inside, plaster on the outside, plaster on the inside. It's 2 feet thick, which presented a problem when we came through to this room. We had to curve it, and that made an interesting sculpture at the top of the arch, and the floor had to be curved in order to get from one room to the next. One of the final projects was making a concrete walkway around the front of the house so that from the kitchen to the garbage cans I didn't have to walk through the grass. Building this has been one of my great joys. It's been a project in my retirement, and I sat in front of a computer for 6 years because I couldn't start the project because I did not yet have clear title to the property. And when we finally got started, I was a willing participant in hands-on in the construction. I did all of the architectural work. I did all of the structural engineering. I personally did all of the plumbing. I personally did all of the electrical work. In addition to designing those things, I laid the pipe and connected the wires. I helped with some of this concrete, but that's heavy work. I really appreciate the guys that worked with me, and I appreciate you taking the time to see what we did. Hey, if you like me, give me one of those thumbs up. And please subscribe and hit that little bell so you know when I post next. Please share me with your friends on social media. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed what was on my mind today.